Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard with your host, Bill Stierle. And you know what, Bill? I continue to be disheartened at what's happening in and around the second impeachment trial.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't be surprised, and I guess to extent I'm not surprised, but to see these senators who have predetermined they're going to acquit Trump.
Right. Yes.
And it really appears to me that they are quite simply putting their own political survival ahead of their oath to the Constitution and ahead of truth.
Yeah.
And that is so frustrating.
Yeah, we got to feel frustrated, sad. We'll feel helpless because we're looking for the need for integrity. We're looking for trust that they're going to actually weigh evidence. And at the same time, is from an individual standpoint, if you think about it this way, is that when a kid steals a candy bar, you want to you want the punishment not to be too big, because then it's like, what are you doing there to the kid, right?
Right.
But you also don't want the punishment to be nothing, because you caught the kid stealing the candy bar. But what happens if the kid steals the candy bar, gets caught, and says, it doesn't matter? And then you look at him and says, yeah, you're probably right. It doesn't matter. You're not in a place of ethics or value of the ownership of this candy bar and the integrity of maintaining value. America loses value. And as a result, respect, as a result, trust, if you don't hold value and accountability. Now, if I'm a senator and I'm from a red state and I look at the votes that just took place during the election, and I'm looking at 73 million people voted for Trump, well, that possibly could be problematic if you think in a very monolithic way. Monolithic way is, if I vote against Trump, they will not vote for me. I can be primary. They're going to vote for someone else. Even though that is literally a false assumption that many rational and analytical people think is true. It's not true. What's really true is they have no other place to go. They're not going to go all the way to the Democrat side. They're going to look at you and go, well, he voted for Trump. At the same time, he has still been steadfast with these values that I value. I'm still going to go for him, and I'm going to give him a pass on the mistake or a pass on what his action was, even though I didn't like it. And what the Republicans don't really get quite yet is that if they all do it, then no one will question their loyalty. They can actually build the consensus to go, I'm voting. And then there's like 5 senators or 7 senators that have been the loyalist or the enablers, the way they're calling them, the Ted Cruz and Holly and the rest of the characters that were out in the front of this thing, then they're left out. But all the other folks could say, listen, I don't, they're over there. I'm over here. And yeah, they're a part of the, Republican Party, and they chose to put their loyalty with him, but I'm going to play the long run of the party. I'm not doing the short run. All it took for Trump to do to pull in loyalty was threaten starting a third party. He just threatened to start a Patriot Party, just threatened to do it. And all the Republicans got in line and thought, oh my gosh, he's going to primary us and he's going to take away. At the same time is that he, and just him wielding that amount of power by just the threat of doing it is the thing that from a communications standpoint is really, really outstanding, amazing. And all they had to do was stand together against him and they would have been clean and they would have been fine. But they all just got picked off one at a time and whatever.
Well, and I think if enough people stood up to him, they would actually be free of him because he wouldn't be able to try to run for office in 2024 again if he decides to. But the other thing that's really so hard to accept here, Bill, is that they are putting their own needs to they think they need to be more accountable to the potential voter the next time they run than they do to the Constitution. I mean, I understand the people vote for these representatives. They do. And the people will decide who gets to win, who gets to represent them. The majority of the people will decide that every time. Okay. So you can elect a president who has said, grab him by the pussy or whatever. You can elect a president who did that before he was president. But you have an oath to the Constitution as a senator to be an impartial juror, to be an arbiter of what is true, in this case, in an impeachment trial. And they're abdicating that responsibility, saying, no, I'm going to be more loyal to the voter, whatever they want me to be, instead of the Constitution. Because that's really what's happening here with this vote, with a lot of them. I mean, because a lot of these senators aren't even looking at the videos. They're keeping their heads down. They're not watching the presentation. Some that have a different kind of ethical and moral compass are saying, wow, the Democrats made a great presentation. They're putting on a good case. The Republican defense for former President Trump is not doing a good job. And, maybe a few more Republicans are going to vote to convict, but the majority of them, it doesn't matter what is said by the House managers. Their minds made up going in, and they would have us all believe right now nothing can move them so much to get them to vote to convict, because they don't care about the truth. They don't care about what this means, what this vote historically will mean.
They care about the truth as it relates to the belief of the voter.
I understand that. But
they're caring about a version of truth, a perspective of truth. I mean, they're caring about that. You and I, and others don't necessarily like this, but really the reality is if someone believes something, and as Americans, they get to express what that belief is, it might not be true. And you could take any racist comment, any trope, any feminist and macho and narcissist thing a person can say. The person's believing that it's true, therefore it's true for them. And this is why everyone kind of jumped down, Kellyanne Conway's this is the alternative fact. It's what she actually meant to say is that This is the truth of this voting constituent. And the getting a country to have getting 300 million people, 332 million people, soon to be 331 million people, the getting them to believe a common truth when somebody is taking their belief, taking their bias, and politically moving their belief structure to create division through messaging, it's really, really unsettling. It's not until the person, to break the spell, until the person either has somebody they admire greatly say, I made a mistake, and they give that person a thing, and then they'll change their belief because that person made the mistake. Then they'll change their belief. If in a court case, Rudy Giuliani says, yeah, I lied to everybody, or I'm going to jail over this, or the judge says to Rudy Giuliani, listen, would you like not to go to jail? And yes, Your Honor. Well, say the following sentence. The election was held fairly. There was no things. That's what it takes. Now, the closest model that we have towards this is in South Africa during the peace and reconciliation trials, where the person that did the bad thing, what they needed to do is to tell the truth to get off. If you tell the truth, the country can heal and get into reconciliation. If you don't tell the truth, then the country cannot get into truth and reconciliation. So America really has a very shoddy record of telling the truth regarding racism, regarding all kinds of wars, regarding all kinds of ways that the government and different people have hijacked people to get them to do things that against their best interests for the party, for certain individuals. We've done a pretty crappy job of being honest, and pretty crappy job of being fully accountable with our words and phrases. We're not really good at honesty. America Honesty and America Trust has really, really taken a hit on this. And so, I mean, for a good 40, 50 years, you could go to you used to be able to go to Europe and, oh, you're from America? Thank you so much for sending your people here to set us free, from Nazi Germany. And that goodwill lasted, a clean 40 years. I mean, it was good.
Sure.
And
it did, but now we've got the older generations who were saved, and the ones that fought are, dwindling, if not most of them are gone. And, that goodwill went with it.
It went with it, and we have not done the things that we needed to do to keep it moving forward. We didn't fight the good war, or we didn't establish something that was going to go better for us in Iraq and Iran and in the Middle East, and it's very, very unsettling. We didn't build the bridges that allow people. No, we've done things that have burned the bridges. Talk to any Northern Iraqi that was fighting alongside Americans and trusting and helping and supporting, and then Trump pulls out the thing, and the Kurds regrettably are hung out there, and and the Turkey did what it did, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's really, really very difficult, because truth and trust with our allies and the people that we're fighting for the things we would like,
Well, really I guess for some reason, the integrity piece really bothers me, Bill. And
yep.
Because we're back to the example of Newt Gingrich again, that you and I have talked about before on a past episode, which is that, Newt said point blank in an interview, it's not my job to tell the voters the truth. It's my job to get them to elect me. And really, that is, every Republican senator who votes to acquit President Trump should have to wear a scarlet quote on their jacket that says that, the
there's a campaign right there.
Truth
like,
at the expense of the, sort of, I don't know what it would be. Something about putting something above the Constitution, and
well, they would get the scarlet D, dishonored, or the scarlet I, integrity,
yeah,
lack of the scarlet L, lack of integrity or something.
Yeah, the
or
international
the T,
red circle with the slash through integrity, or something. I mean, it's just, that's so frustrating. I understand the team sports analogy, but more and more Republicans keep leaving the party, keep coming out and saying, this is not my Republican Party. I'm not a part of this. Is actually, you mentioned, you mentioned, that, Trump threatened creating the Patriot Party and that sort of tightened everybody up and got everybody back in line. I mean, look at what happened in the House the other week in, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Representative McCarthy giving her a complete pass on things that she has said and done that are way out of bounds, certainly in the ethical side of things and moral side of things for a U.S. representative. But then look at Representative King and what they did to him 2 years ago for making a racist statement. He was removed. Look at what and actually, it's interesting. I saw a piece that was comparing the Democrats to the Republicans, and the Republicans are all about winning at all cost, and they keep, putting winning, the idea of winning ahead of integrity and ethics and morals. It's happened throughout the whole Trump presidency. But then the Democrats are not playing by the same rules. And the big example of that is how they forced out Al Franken from the Senate, right? Yeah. The Democrats are saying, no, we're not going to put winning and closing ranks around our team ahead of integrity in certain ways, and
or a public position. See, the public doesn't really understand that this is a public position. I know it, they don't really understand. It's a funny sentence and give the person a pass in their public life, in their service life. This is a service position. This is something that they're going to serve others. So in the service position, your message has got to serve the best interests of the country. You're not a private citizen. You're not. You're a public citizen. And win at all cost, at the expense of. As soon as you do it that way, you're in trouble. At the expense of truth, at the expense of integrity, at the expense of respect, at the expense of trust. Like it gets bad real quick.
At the expense of my oath to protect and defend the Constitution. I mean, that's the principle we're all supposed to be aspiring to uphold here as a citizen, as a representative. And I'm just not seeing that Trump's action is very much in alignment with protecting and defending the Constitution. In fact, it was an assault on the peaceful transition of power that is explicitly a part of the Constitution.
Yeah. I think there's a lot. I think there's a really, the metaphor that just came to my mind as I drew the pause there was, it's burning the field in order to enrich the soil. It's like, it'd be interesting to see how this is going to, flame out, burn out over the next really basically 2 election cycles. I mean, if you think about it, it's like Joe Biden's got 4 years to do what he's going to do. And those 73 million people that voted against him are going to sit there and go, not enough, not enough, because you were not elected legitimately. They'll bring that out for a spin again, and because it hasn't went anywhere, and it was rigged, and because of whatever you did that the guy I liked, you undid the thing that the guy I liked. They're not even looking at the policy. It's I liked his authoritarian conviction, decisive leadership, no nonsense. He made government simple for me. He didn't frustrate me with government because he was so decisive. I'm not even going to read his policy, or I'm not even going to hold him accountable that says, we're going to give you a better healthcare system, much better than the rest. It's like, there's no plan. Oh, best rollout ever. There's no rollout plans. He left it all up to the states, and he threw his hands up and didn't do any government piece to it.
Right.
And it costs getting numbered closer to 600,000. I'm sure by today, or by within the week's time, we're going to be 600,000 deaths. From a factual place, just the need for protection not being met early, the need for safety not being messaged early. Stop the spread of virus, people stay home. How about that? And how do we protect the economy? Contact tracing. What is contact tracing doing? You've got to give up a little bit of your freedom you've got to give some freedom up for the economy. Oh, I don't know if I want to do that. I want my freedom and my economy. It's like, I don't think you're going to get that one on this one, because we're fighting for the greater good. There's just even that phrase, Tom, the greater good, actually doesn't have a meaning in the United States. If you want to see how weird this is, it's that weird. It's that the United States is a country that does not stand for the greater good. Does that even sound congruent?
It doesn't. It sounds like something foreign. It sounds like another country. It sounds like somewhere in the Middle East. It sounds like, Afghanistan or Syria. And, freedoms, we all appreciate the freedoms as Americans. And those are some of our biggest ideals, but they get distorted. I mean, people say, well, President Trump was exercising his freedom of speech to talk at that rally that day. And, the analogy that gets overused is you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, right? But this wasn't just yelling fire in a crowded theater. This was yelling fire, whipping up a crowd into a frenzy and getting them to go set fire to the theater.
Right. And being the police chief and not doing anything about it while it was happening. And I think that was the really great metaphor that the prosecution brought forward, because just paying attention, because those kinds of marketing and sales language to reinforce a person's brain helps. And we've got to recultivate America. The USA stands for the greater good, not the individual success at the expense of the many. That is not what we do, and we strive towards rugged individualism as it applies to entrepreneurialism. Fantastic. Take it out for a spin. Work your butt off, spend 80 hours a week for 5, 7, 10, 15 years and bring that innovation out and hire and create this great economy. fantastic, but not inside the government agency that's the foundation that has to fight for the greater good. That's not the way to take it out for a spin. And and I think that might be the really kind of the title of this podcast, is that, are we going to stand for the greater good, which means collectively we have to agree upon stuff and not get stuck in the silo of a message from whether it's an extreme left point of view or an extreme right of point of view. We're not doing that.
No, we're not.
And that's because it's not for the greater good. Now, I'm going to say something that's upsetting, and it's a great rabbit hole to leave us staring down as we kind of close this podcast, but it's, do we tell our children the entire truth the whole time when they're growing up? No, you do not.
Definitely no. Yeah.
Definitely not. We do not tell them the truth because they're developmentally not ready to hear that fuller truth. So we protect them, and then we don't say things. Now, are there times, would it have been better to tell them the truth because they knew something was up? They kind of asked us about the question. For efficiency's sake, we didn't tell them because it benefited the need for peace and the need for loyalty or connection between us and our kids. That's the situation our government is sitting in, is that it's the parent, which is the elected official, doesn't want to tell the child, their voter, hey, listen, I got some bad news. We lost this time around. We need to do something different this next time around, because it seems like 81 million Americans voted for Biden and only 73 million Americans voted for Trump and the Republicans, or the Trump. The Republicans did pretty well vote-wise in various different districts and so on and so forth. At the same time, we need to tell the truth about it. And it might sound like this. The truth is that I get to be in this office because there's not as many blue voters in this district. And we're lucky to have this voice, because if we were in a different state, I would not get elected in that different. See, and that's, adults need to have that nuance going, like there's the ways the rules are set might be in our favor, and some of the rules might not be in our favor. And you know what? You could call it illegal, but the rule's not in our favor. And it didn't go our way this time. Okay, Dust, you got called out, sliding into second, and you were there and you got called out. Or you didn't get called out. And we got a person on base, and that was great for 4 years, but it came back around on us, and it didn't go so well. So that's the healthy relationship with truth. And I talk a little bit more about this when we talk about emotional sobriety and how can we have an adult conversation with people. And I think that's something that we can pick up next time, is how to have a honest, emotionally sober, empathetic conversation with somebody that's speaking and thinking in an opposite way than we are. And it can go better that way too. So
I think that would be a good thing to explore. It might tie into some other video I've seen recently that I sent to you, Bill, regarding QAnon, and maybe those things can come together about how to have. That's a great, because we need to have empathy. We need to have empathy for the people that are now in the sphere, the languaging sphere with QAnon. I'm glad you brought that up, because we need to have a healthy discussion about
How do you take somebody that is so invested and taking it as a personal attack where the person's just trying to have a discussion about a thing instead of about a self? It's not about you. It's not about your belief. It's about this thing that we can't see eye to eye on. And I love you, but the thing that you're believing is a little tough for us to talk about. Anyway, so more to come with that. More to come with the QAnon discussion about how communication is used to really get people invested into the various different mysteries, because they always make it mysterious, and that's called the uncertainty principle. I'm going to create uncertainty so that, what's behind that rock? A bug. That's it. That's all that's there. Anyways, all right. Well, more to come, Tom.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.